All right, so as Ms. Crystal shared, I'm Khayree Williams. I'm the director for our Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Campus Center at Austin Community College. Essentially, my role is to provide an intentional space for faculty, staff, our students, and even our community partners to engage in this important conversation. Typically, when I present, I'm not great at lecturing. I'm more, I think I'm better suited to help lead conversations, lead activities, lead a sharing of stories. So that's what you have to look forward to. So I look forward to our time together. Typically with groups, I generally speaking, I usually have an hour and a half to 2 hours to 3 hours with the group. In terms of being a truth, racial healing, and transformation campus center professional, these are some of the pillars that we help use to help frame just kind of cultivating a courageous space where we can share, where we can learn, where we can hear, where we can even make mistakes, but do so in a loving and caring and respectful way. So typically, I walk through all these. We don't have time for that. I did want to make sure that you saw them. I did want to make sure that you were aware that these are how this is how I guide this conversation. If I have to bring us back to these, I will. But definitely being 100% present is so important because these discussions aren't easy to have, but they're easier when it feels like we're all committed to the conversation. But yes, okay, all right. So we are back on track. These are the courageous space touchstones. Again, we won't walk through all of them, but so important. These aren't easy conversations to have. So even as well-meaning adults and well-meaning leaders, we can often have the tendency to shy away from these conversations. No one wants to say the wrong thing. No one wants to appear ignorant on a particular subject. No one wants to offend someone by misspeaking. So often we just avoid the conversation altogether. But as leaders that are cultivating spaces for community members, for students, for our colleagues, we have to be able to engage in these conversations to move our organizations forward as it relates to becoming more equitable and more just. So we have to have the conversations, and we do so kind of under the guise of these pillars. But speaking your truth, uh, suspending judgment, listening deeply, being 100% present, understanding that we are all on our own journey, we're all at different places, and also understanding that you know, your experience is your experience, my experience is my experience. I mean, as we are listening, hearing, just because something doesn't necessarily match up to, your lived experience doesn't mean it's not true, doesn't mean it's not valid. So these are all some things that we typically would have a little more time to unpack, but just wanted to make sure you saw them and at least heard some of them, because that's what I'll be holding us to in this conversation. Okay, so for the purposes of this conference and the mission and even our conversation today, it's really about knowing and understanding that the goal is steadfast and loyal love from God through us and to others. So, meaning as leaders, how do we ensure that our spaces are embodying that? That everyone, regardless of their race, their color, their creed, sexual orientation, everything that makes them who they are, all the important identity markers that make us who we are, that they're able to, everyone that's a part of our organization, everyone that's a part of our community is able to bring 100% of themselves into our spaces without feeling like they have to leave aspects of who they are at the door. So the goal is this: how can we achieve this? Regardless of where you're at on kind of your journey around cultural competency, understanding justice and equity, even as someone who is a professional that does this work, I'm not there yet. My institution's not there yet. None of us are there yet. It's an ongoing journey, and it's something that we keep getting better around and keep growing around. So just knowing and understanding this is the goal, and that we should all be committed to it. We can't say that these are important principles of our organization, but not be investing our time, our talent, our money, our equity into making this an important conversation on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. Organizations don't get better if we don't tackle it. I wanted to, as I jump into this conversation, kind of get your mindset around discussing justice and equity and how we, as we shortly I'll talk about implicit biases, but how we as leaders who are also imperfect, how we help to lead these leading these spaces when we're still working through it ourselves and our organization starts still working through it themselves. So what I'm going to do with this first quick conversation is just a quick activity. So you have access to your chat. I have pictures of 4 hats on the screen. The title of the screen is The Tale of the Hats. I just want you to think about uh, potentially the kind of person that will wear these hats or why they will wear these hats. So you can answer one or two questions. What kind of person would wear a hat like this? And the second question is, or why would they wear a hat like this? And Mr. Chris is going to help me with the responses in the chat, but I'm going to give you about 30 seconds.
And then can you say what the hats, what it says on each hat?
Yep. So one says doctoral student, one says finished. It's with the EDD. So it's symbolizing a doctorate in educational degree, doctorate in education degree. One says Dr. Williams, and the other says Sigma, which is a reference to a fraternity. So yeah. So again, the questions are what kind of person will wear these hats, or number two, why do you think someone will wear a hat like this? I'll give you about 30 more seconds.
One participant says someone proud of education and wanting to motivate. Another
Okay.
person says identity.
Okay. Identity. I'm proud of education. Someone who wants to motivate. Okay.
Different identity markers. People
Different
who
identity
wish
markers.
to share successes.
People who wish to share successes. Identity markers. Okay. Awesome. Okay. We have a couple more.
Yep. To encourage others.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, so to encourage others to share some identity markers, to celebrate some successes, to share achievements. Okay. So here are all those. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those. Um, so what I'll say, and then I'll speak to that, is this is how you see me today in front of you. How you see me in this picture is typically my Monday through Friday outfit. My outfit, in some respects, makes me feel a little bit safer as it relates to who I am as a man of color who has to move around in society. When I'm at Austin Community College, when I'm on that campus, when I'm dressed like this, I'm viewed. I'm respected as a leader in the community, respected as a man of color who is educated, who is assumed to be positive, assumed to be a productive citizen, assumed to not be a threat, so to speak. Um, However, I'm also aware that on the weekends, typically speaking, when I'm not on camera, when I'm not in these spaces, leading these types of conversations, this is typically how I look. Um, Now, again, I'm the same person. I'm still Dr. Khayree Williams. I'm still a educator. I'm still a leader of a center. I'm still someone who's heavily involved in the community as it relates to community service, as it relates to mentoring, someone who's passionate about students. However, how I'm often perceived when I look like this is often the exact opposite of that. I can share many experiences where I was made to feel like I'm just another man of color that's a potential threat, and that's how people uh, address me. So that's how the energy feels. But when I had a friend ask me a few years ago, why do you wear those type of hats? Because all of my hats are kind of like custom made, and there's always a message on there, and it really hadn't been something that resonated with me much until I was asked that question. And the reality was that it was something I was kind of doing unintentionally, but it was a way for me to indicate that even though I may look like this, there's more to me if you have it take the opportunity to have a conversation, or there's more to me. I'm not potentially this unsafe person. I'm a positive black man. I lead in the community. I'm educated. Contributing to society. You shouldn't view me as a threat. And as I started to think about that, I realized, wow, I'm really, I hadn't realized that was what I was doing. But in some ways, I was trying to ensure that I was keeping myself safe, just as I do Monday through Friday when I look like this, um, in a different way. And as I think about this conversation we're going to have as we progress further, as it relates to stereotypes and implicit biases and putting folks into boxes, I think it's sad that anyone, myself included, should have to uh, feel like they have to go out of their way to signal, to indicate to folks in their community, folks in our institutions, that they are safe, that they're okay, and that they are going to bring something positive to the table. Um, any thoughts? Any questions around just that little quick activity? You can feel free to put it in the chat. I don't. Do they have the ability to unmute their mics?
No, they're just in the chat.
Just in the chat. Okay. Yeah. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
And someone else said a role model.
Role model. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, if anyone drops anything in the chat, let me know. Um, But as I just provide a little more context around this topic, I just wanted to point out that these are, even as well-meaning leaders, well-meaning adults, even Christians, these are mistakes that we all make. It has nothing to do with us being bad people, and it has us to do with us having malicious intent. It has everything to do with the fact that this is how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to essentially fill in the blanks. It's a scientific fact that when we meet someone new, our brain has already started to make some assumptions about them within the first 10 to 15 seconds. And it's usually around, first and foremost, their gender, their age, and their race and ethnicity. Then we'll progress to other things we may see or take in. So it's one of those things where you can't get past it. It's just how our brains work. We want to fill in the information, we want to fill in the blanks because it helps to advise us on how to kind of progress and move forward with that person. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we can't get around. However, as we engage more in this work around equity and justice, engage more around how we care for people, respect them, and can cultivate spaces where they can bring all of themselves to them. It becomes easier when we make mistakes to point those mistakes out, to say, hey, I kind of made a decision, or a split second, kind of had a split second reaction based around a stereotype or bias. Let me take a step back. So the goal is to know and understand that we all do this, regardless of who you are, regardless of how much you've been invested in this work, regardless of how much wisdom or information or how woke you feel. We all make these mistakes. The goal is to know and understand when we're making these mistakes and be able to correct them. But it happens. It's just that we have to get to a point where we are developing a lens where we can spot it and say, hey, or even within our organization practices, policies, whether informal or formal, we often make these mistakes too. So the goal is as leaders to be able to get to a point where we can spot when it happens and we can correct it, or we can spot when it's getting ready to happen and we can correct it.
And then, Dr. Williams, when you ask a question the next time, would you like for someone to come on and they can share their video?
Yes, if that's a yeah, if we have that ability, absolutely.
Okay.
Do we have someone that wants to share?
No, we're asking in the future, the next question
Okay,
that you have, if they want to request to share their video and audio, I can
absolutely,
give them the access.
absolutely. And maybe well, so I have two videos to show, but maybe towards the end we'll just kind of, once I stop sharing my screen, maybe.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So really quickly, stereotypes. A little bit about stereotypes. Essentially, when we make a blanket statement, blanket judgment about a group of folks based on either an experience we've had or an experience or generalization that's just has been shared with us. So it's something that as you move through society, whether you're watching the news, whether you're reading a newspaper, a book, magazine, whether it's connected to something you've heard at the kitchen table with your family, at your church or place you worship. The reality is we're all exposed to stereotypes. Again, the goal is to get to a point where we can spot when we are allowing those to impact our behaviors, and impact how we're interacting with people. And it's just a widely, but It's held, fixed, and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. And the kind of the transition from kind of a stereotype to implicit bias is essentially when attitudes towards people associated with those stereotypes. It allows it to turn into unconscious actions. So, for example, using a stereotype impacting a hiring decision, or impacting how we promote, impacting who we provide raises to, or how we apply in terms of there being an infraction or someone that serves under you doing something wrong, and there being a difference in how you apply the kind of ramifications of that. So it's essentially when a stereotypes moves from just an idea to an unconscious action. So kind of as you're taking all that in, I'm going to show a quick video to kind of give us some more context around how we as leaders potentially put folks in boxes. And then we're going to have a little bit of discussion around that. Okay. So, Ms. Chris, I'm going to play the video. Please let me know. We tested the video earlier, so what we're going to ask is that everyone turns their volume all the way up on their computer, because I guess it's a little bit low. So if you can work through that really quickly and go ahead and turn your volume all the way up on your computer, and I'm going to play the video.
It's easy to put people in boxes. There's us, and there's them. The high earners, and those just getting by. Those we trust, and those we try to avoid. There's the new Danes, and those who've always been here. The people from the countryside, and those who've never seen a cow. The religious, and the self-confident. There are those we share something with, and those we don't share anything with.
Velkommen. Jeg kommer til at stille jer nogle spørgsmål i dag. Nogle af dem kan godt være lidt personlige, men jeg håber, I vil svare ærligt på dem. Hvem herinde i rummet var klassens klovn? Hvem er bonusforældre?
And then suddenly, there's us. We who believe in life after death. We who've seen UFOs. And all of us who love to dance. We who've been bullied. And we who've bullied others. And then there's us, the lucky ones who've had sex this past week. We who are broken-hearted. We who are madly in love. We who feel lonely. We who are bisexual. And we who acknowledge the courage of others. We who have found the meaning of life. And we who have saved lives. And then there's all of us who just love Denmark. So maybe there's more that brings us together than we think. TV2 Denmark. All that we share.
All right. If you could, if you put any initial reactions you have to the video in the chat, just anything that resonated with you, any thoughts you have on the video.
Someone says, I love how loose people come over time as they realize how connected they are.
Yeah, the power of connection. Um, Absolutely. I mean, I think what I often feel that people get in these spaces, whether we're in person or virtually, is that much as we are different, there's so much that we have in common. It just takes us getting to that deeper connection. It takes us getting to know each other beyond what we see in passing. Takes us getting to know each other beyond, the how was your weekend, how was your evening, how was your family, but really getting an opportunity to hear about each other's experiences and thoughts and perspectives around this. Um, it's one thing to say, I'm Khayree and I work at ACC, director of the center, which is another thing to spend time with me and get to know me and understand that I'm a husband, I'm a father. I love being working through my fraternity to mentor and do community service. I'm active in the church. I'm a dad. Like there's so much that there's so much that we are as human beings, as individuals, as leaders that isn't on our t-shirt or isn't on our sleeve that really takes us, as leaders, really cultivating spaces where colleagues or folks that we engage with can go a little bit deeper, because when we find that connection, it makes it easier for us to move this conversation forward. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Right. And then we have another one. I like that it shows the diversity of cultures, not just in US.
Yeah, diversity of cultures, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, we have a lot of that in our organizations, but again, we can't really leverage it if we don't, provide spaces for folks to share that little bit about who they are.
I've seen videos like this before. They are moving. Inviting people with lighter questions first gives them bravery before the later, more challenging questions.
Absolutely. There has to be a build up, and there has to be a you have to cultivate an environment where folks, people want to share and feel open to being vulnerable and feel safe enough that they're going to be protected and be celebrated when they do share. So yeah, you don't um, necessarily start with the hard questions first. I would advise that you kind of build up to that, but you cultivate a space where it's going to be comfortable for folks to do that, and that they trust that it's going to be safe.
It allowed for a shared experience just by giving a common label.
Common label, shared experience. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you know, folks came into there not quite knowing what to expect, but they feel like they left smiling. I feel like we saw them smiling as they engaged. I feel like as they saw those connections being made, it made them even more comfortable to be there. Right, right. So uh, my second question is just simply, I mean, you all are leaders in this space. You are at this conference because it's important to you, and you are working to become even better at cultivating courageous spaces where folks can bring all of themselves. Um, my question, and you can use the chat again, is just simply, what's one thing you can do as you are engaged in this conference? The goal is to take something away from it that you can apply immediately to the work you're doing. What's one thing you can do to cultivate courageous spaces where folks can bring all themselves? Either you continue to do or bolster those efforts. What's one thing that you plan to do as a leader moving forward from this conference?
Well, I'll just say for me, I plan to be more intentional about reaching out to others that may not necessarily look like me. So just building those bridges and, filling in the gap.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Crystal. We have a couple other folks that would like to chime in.
One person says, just take a pause to recognize any implicit bias and know that I don't know any person's story. and that we're much more alike in life than different.
Much more alike than different. Absolutely. So taking a pause to, um, yeah, to get to a better understanding of especially the folks that you engage with on a regular basis, understand their story. So sometimes it means, the difference between how was your weekend and hey, can we do coffee or can we do lunch, or um, sometimes it means hey, I realized that I don't have a lot of experience in a particular space, and you have a colleague that maybe that's part of their identity, saying hey, would you I'm trying to get better at this stuff, and I need the help. Would I be able to go with you to an event? Or building that relationship, but then asking a question like that. Um, but looking for ways to really capitalize on probably already some of what's already in your network, and being vulnerable and doing so to kind of increase that learning.
Right. And then our Dean of Students, Reverend
Mhm.
Sarah Gaventa, says one of the reasons I meet with every student one on one when they enter is to learn more about the complex person they are. We are all more than our labels.
Absolutely, we're all more than our labels. I think working in educational spaces, especially students, you can have these great mission statements, these great vision statements. You can have an amazing diversity statement. But students know, and we as individuals, we know when someone doesn't truly care about us, and isn't truly invested in us. It's treating us like another number, so to speak. A simple gesture as far as just remembering a name or remembering something significant that someone shared with you. That lets folks know that you're listening, that you're committed, that you're invested, and that you really appreciate them as an individual. Those are things that are so important to do, and they're small things, and there's absolutely some big things to do as well.
Right. Then your high school classmate Heather says to make sure that I notice and see the difference in people rather than othering people.
Oh, yeah, the difference in people. Yeah, I think there's sometimes. I mean, I do this work, and this is not a shot at them, but some folks say I don't see color or I don't see difference, and my response is often, well, if you don't see that I'm a man of color, then I don't feel like you truly see me, because I have great pride in being a man of color, and I need you to see me as who I am, and then be willing to learn a little bit about me more beyond just my skin color. But the truth of the matter is, we all see color, we all see differences. If someone like me was to you're in many you are at home in your offices, in your home offices. If I was to come to your window, if I was to hit you over the head and take your purse, you wouldn't say, officer, I didn't see color. You'd say it was a guy with glasses. He was black, and he was maybe smiling, but you see color. We all see color. We all see differences, and studies show that even kids see color as young as being infants. So it's okay to acknowledge differences, but the next step is figuring out what makes us what's so great about what makes us different, and what things do we have in common.
And then the last one here is pay attention to ways the church can be supportive, connective to underrepresented people who wish to serve in local government.
Mm. Yeah, paying attention to those folks that aren't as fully at the table. When folks want to serve, we need to empower them to serve. We need to give them the space to make sure that they're using their gifts, their talents, their abilities to be fully heard at the table. And as leaders, we need to be looking around at our table, so to speak. Who is our leadership? Who is present? Who is not present? What can we do to make sure that we are being more inclusive and more just by getting more folks at the table to truly represent the community we're serving? All right, awesome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to show us one more quick video that'll just kind of highlight the work we do in the center, and then we'll have a couple minutes for any questions.
TRHT, Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Center, came to be in 2017. The American Association of Colleges and Universities put out a call for proposals for grants for the first 10 TRHT centers that would be housed at some college or university in the United States. We applied. Lo and behold, little did we know, we would be the only community college chosen and the only Texas institution, which was really exciting for us. A few of the others were Rutgers and Duke and the University of Hawaii, and Brown University. They were all in the same group as we were, and so that was really exciting for us. As we went on through those first 2 years, we got to the point where we could hire a director, and we hired Dr. Khayree Williams.
I'm really passionate about just making sure that our colleges, universities, places of higher education are doing the best job to serve all students. So most of my experience these last 10 years has been diversity, equity, inclusion work at institutions of higher education. Really the vision is that the center, the TRHT Campus Center, is a convening space where we have intentional conversations, intentional learning, intentional growth and development around diversity issues.
Brian Joseph is a wonderful community partner. He is an artist and a friend that I have known since the 80s. So we talked about what this center was supposed to be and what we were trying to say, and then he himself came up with the design and the story that goes with it. He calls his people the Body People, bringing you delightful, entertaining experiences.
My art is always about bringing people together, and that's something that I can really relate to this program. With this art piece, I thought about at the bottom, if you look, you see a lot of people on it, and I want the energy to come from the people. All people just communicating, getting together, they're going, it's like a wave of people back and forth, moving, and they're all happy because they're colorful and there's a lot of energy, and in the end it will be all diverse, all different colors, people getting together.
I think it just contributes to the positive energy here. Like I see people walk past and stop, and they're like, wait, what is that? And we haven't opened, but so many people have just came in here because they wanted to see the mural and then hear more about what the space was about.
ACC took this planning grant to do the planning with the commitment that we were going to have a center that was part of our budget. Again, it's so much a part of our values and what we believe at ACC.
There'll be tons of events in here. Some of them will be live streamed, some of them will be fully virtual, but we have a bunch of events coming up, so if they're open to students, faculty, staff, and community, we want everyone to be a part of those discussions and that learning.